Introduction: Bringing the agency relationship to a close. Throughout this course, we have explored how agency relationships are created, how fiduciary duties operate during representation, and how Arizona law regulates agency disclosure and professional conduct. Agency relationships are central to real estate transactions, but it is equally important to understand how those relationships come to an end. Agency does not continue indefinitely. It may terminate through actions taken by the parties involved or through events that occur outside the control of the parties. In this section, we focus specifically on termination by the parties themselves, which occurs when either the client, the principal, or the agent chooses to end the relationship. Understanding how agency termination works is critical for risk management because misunderstandings about termination often lead to disputes regarding commissions, representation duties, or contractual obligations. Arizona real estate professionals must ensure that termination is handled properly, documented clearly, and communicated to all parties involved. Proper documentation protects both the brokerage and the client while maintaining compliance with Arizona revised statutes, Title 32, Chapter 20, and the professional conduct rules contained within AAC R428. A. Mutual consent. One of the most straightforward ways an agency relationship may terminate is through mutual consent. Mutual consent occurs when both the principal and the agent agree to end the agency relationship before the completion of the transaction. This situation may arise for many reasons, including changes in the client's circumstances, dissatisfaction with the representation arrangement, or the decision to pursue a different strategy in the transaction. For example, a seller and chandler may initially sign a listing agreement with a brokerage, but later decide not to sell the property due to changing market conditions or personal circumstances. If both the seller and the brokerage agree to terminate the listing agreement, the agency relationship can end through mutual consent. In these situations, it is important for the broker and the client to clearly document the termination in writing. Written documentation confirms that both parties agreed to end the relationship and prevents misunderstandings regarding future obligations or commission claims. Mutual consent provides a cooperative and professional way to conclude an agency relationship while maintaining goodwill between the parties. B. Principal cancellation. Agency relationships may also terminate when the principal chooses to cancel the relationship. The principal is the client who has authorized the agent to act on their behalf. Because the principal ultimately controls the agency relationship, the principal generally has the ability to cancel the agreement. However, cancellation may have contractual consequences depending on the terms of the agreement. For example, a seller in Gilbert may sign an exclusive listing agreement with a brokerage for a 6-month period. If the seller decides to cancel the agreement after 2 months because they want to work with another brokerage, the seller may still be bound by the contractual terms of the listing agreement. While the agency relationship may end, the seller could still be responsible for obligations such as payment of marketing expenses or commission if a buyer who was introduced during the listing period later purchases the property. This distinction highlights an important concept. Terminating an agency relationship does not always eliminate contractual obligations. Agents should carefully review the terms of the agreement with the client and explain the potential consequences of cancellation before proceeding. See Agent cancellation. Agent. Just as the principal may terminate the agency relationship, the agent may also withdraw from representation. Agents may choose to terminate representation for several reasons, including conflicts of interest, inability to fulfill the client's expectations, or concerns about compliance with legal or ethical standards. For example, a buyer's agent in Phoenix may discover that their client intends to conceal important information during the transaction or instruct the agent to engage in conduct that violates Arizona law. In such cases, the agent has a professional responsibility to refuse participation in unlawful or unethical conduct. Terminating the agency relationship allows the agent to withdraw from the situation while maintaining compliance with professional standards. However, similar to principal cancellation, agent cancellation may still be subject to contractual terms within the representation agreement. The agent should communicate clearly with the client regarding the reasons for termination and ensure that the brokerage documents the termination appropriately. D. Written release and documentation. Regardless of how termination occurs, written documentation is essential. Written releases confirm that the agency relationship has ended and clarify whether any obligations remain between the parties. Documentation may include cancellation forms, termination agreements, or written acknowledgments signed by both parties. Proper documentation helps prevent disputes regarding commissions, representation duties, or future obligations. For example, If a seller cancels a listing agreement in Mesa and later sells the property to a buyer who was introduced by the original agent, the brokerage may still have a claim for commission under the terms of the listing agreement. A written release helps clarify whether the brokerage waived those rights or retained them. In addition to protecting contractual rights, documentation also supports compliance with record retention requirements under ARS, Paragraph 32.2151.01, which requires brokers to maintain transaction records for 5 years. Maintaining clear and organized records ensures that the brokerage can demonstrate compliance if questions arise later. Discussion. Questions. Why is mutual consent considered the simplest way to terminate an agency relationship? Answer. Because both the client and the agent agree to end the relationship without dispute. Why might a principal choose to cancel an agency agreement before it expires? Answer. Because the client's circumstances may change, or they may wish to pursue a different strategy or brokerage relationship. Why is written documentation important when terminating an agency relationship? Answer. Because it confirms that the relationship has ended and clarifies any remaining contractual obligations.